Tara, you said hypergamy is men's fault. Andrew wants to debate you on this.
Okay.
You have 5 minutes. Go.
I mean, I think hypergamy is men's fault, mostly because they're ugly. Just to say it straight out.
What?
Wait, you think most men are ugly?
Not most. I would say like maybe like 50% of them are not really
why
attractive.
Why would that be men's? Why does that mean hypergamy
because
is men's fault?
they want a girl who does everything for them and fulfills all their needs and whatever, but they want to be like not lazy, like they'll do all the work and whatever, but they'll be like ugly completely, and then they'll complain about no sex during the
Actually, this trope
and why
I hold on before I have Andrew come in. I think this trope is actually more applicable to women. This whole thing of the basement dwelling obese man wants a Victoria's Secret model. Actually, I think it's the completely unremarkable average woman who is desirous of a man outside of her league. That's much more common.
You say
That's
that,
much more common than the man who's the basement dwelling, Cheeto dust, blah, 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 who's like, I need a Victoria's Secret model.
Women?
Here's why. Because men get slapped in the face with reality. If an average dude steps to a Victoria's Secret model, instant rejection. Whereas women...
Nick Vids donated $69.
Yo, Nick
One
Vid, thank
thing
you, man.
before I head to bed.
Appreciate it, brother.
Eric, you caught my eye tonight and you seem very wise.
Ooh.
I'm kind of crushing on you now.
Ooh.
FYI, I DM'd you on Nick.
Oh.
Thank you.
There you go.
there's your man.
So, whereas the reversal, as a woman, if you step to a guy outside of your league, he might keep you around for a couple days, couple weeks, couple months, use you for sex, but you get rejected on the back end, so you might think, well, I was able to sleep with that guy. That's my league.
The issue here is mainly attraction, right? Men are more attracted to women as a whole, right? This is even if you're ugly, you'll probably find a guy, right? Most men, this doesn't apply for women, right? Most women are not attracted to most men just right off the bat unless they actually try to invest in their looks and such, and a lot of men don't do it in the right areas. They think, okay, as long as I'm rich, then I could be a fat guy and do all these other things and be ugly and whatever. Sorry, fat people. And so
I could just turn that back around on you and say, like, look at all these chubby, overweight women who just think, let
But
me
men
throw
will
on
have
some
sex with them
makeup.
anyway.
Let me throw on some makeup, spend all this money on makeup products
And a good
instead of
income.
actually going to the gym. I think all that money you spend on makeup, go buy a gym membership and hit that shit
agree.
hard. That'll make you way more attractive than painting your face.
I agree with that, but I just think that men are attracted to women more. So it's
I don't
like
really understand that.
A person
I don't
who's
either.
I don't
like
really get what
a
you're saying.
Let's say you consider this girl to be a 2 out of 10, right? And like she's very whatever. She'll still be able to find a guy, right? No problem. But a guy who doesn't put any effort into his looks will not be able to find a girl, right?
And
Because women care more about attraction and men will fuck anything. So men being attractive
I get what she's saying.
is more important than a woman being
Among you.
attractive.
okay, so hypergamy is men's fault.
Well, I don't think it's all men's
Q,
fault.
do you want to do a response, and then I'll let Andrew come in on this because he has some good points on this.
No, I just get what she's saying. She's basically saying that it's easier for a woman to get a man than it is for a man to get a woman. That's basically what she's saying, because women at the end of the day, there'll always be like the burden on men to try to find a woman that they can reproduce with, whereas women typically have men who just throw themselves at them who
Right.
aren't desirable. Like, it's not reciprocal. I get what she's saying. I think there is some merit to that.
And Andrew, I've heard your arguments on this before. If I can kind of prompt you. So you've argued that while it is the case that there are these men, when it comes to hypergamy, there are these men who kind of create the homemakers, as I guess they're called. That's a very
Yeah, well, let me dive into this real quick because
Okay.
I want to make sure I understand the argument correctly by steelmanning it. If I heard you correctly, you said that it's because men are ugly. And so I think to steelman this correctly, you're saying that
They're not attractive.
women find men less attractive than men find women, correct?
Yes, correct.
Because men are mostly ugly and women are mostly not ugly.
Sort
From the
of, not
perception,
really.
from the perception of the
It's
sex.
not only
right?
that, also just men have a higher sex drive, from my understanding. They will
Got
fuck
it.
anything.
So then you would say that hypergamy is nature, not social.
Yeah, I do think it's natural.
So then how come it was when thousands of years ago, when there was no beauty standards whatsoever, before there was civilization, would you say that hypergamy existed then?
There was less options then. I think anybody who has
There
an
wasn't
array of
less options. There was the same amount of options. right?
That's not true. What do you mean?
Why would
Dating
they? Well, I
options
don't-
have like
well,
completely.
wait a second. I don't understand. If you're a woman in a village, right, pre-technology, you're saying hypergamy is part of female nature.
But
Isn't
it's
it?
only if you can express it, right? If you don't have options, then there's no hypergamy.
Yeah, but
to
then
have.
the females were just as heinous as the men. So why were the females still going for that top tier of men, according to our archaeological records?
If you have options, men and women will both be hypergamous if they have a few options. That's just the
Yeah,
truth.
demonstrate
That's just
it.
human nature. What do you mean demonstrate?
Demonstrated. Yeah. Can you give me the proof of that claim that if the
Hello
options are there,
underscore
they're
means
both-
underscore goodbye donated $69. I am successful, fit, raising 2 kids and happily dedicated to my wife of 15 years. What are you ladies doing wrong? Now I'm off to my mom's basement.
Aloha means goodbye. Thank you. Enjoy your mom's basement. Go ahead.
I think Andrew was.
Yeah, so back to this question of hypergamy. Before there was these beauty standards which existed pre what you would consider civilization, why do we still see that hypergamy is a matter of the record, that women still went for this top
It's
percentile
human nature to be
of
hypergamous.
men?
Anybody.
What's that?
It's human nature to be hypergamous.
Well, then it can't be
a
because
guy,
men are ugly,
A
then.
top 1%er, right? A guy who's like the alpha guy who can have all the girls he wants. He is also hypergamous, right? The reason why
Then
a
it
lot
can't
of
be
men.
because men are ugly and women are pretty. If the pre-beauty standards, they were both fucking ugly and had bad hygiene.
Yeah, but
women weren't.
their
Women weren't
standards
shaving
of
their arm.
beauty-
Hang on. Women weren't shaving their armpits. They weren't plucking their fucking mustaches. They weren't going and getting fake
Sure.
titties. They weren't going and getting all that bullshit.
But
so
beauty
why
s-
were they still going for them if the argument is that they were just men are just fucking ugly?
Beauty standards are relative, right? Like what we consider beautiful today is obviously not going to be what they consider beautiful.
Oh
5
yeah, the
million.
men
Like,
back then, 10,000 years ago, wanted women with mustaches. That was they were into that shit.
I'm not saying. Well, I mean, I just think it was probably more the standard. I don't think most women were shaving back.
Right,
way,
they
way
weren't.
Back, you know?
So they were equally as ugly, and yet they still went for those men. So this destroys your entire argument. If you're saying it's just nature,
No,
then it
because
wouldn't
it
matter
doesn't.
if the
It
men were
doesn't
better
because
looking than the
men,
women.
Men will fuck anything, and women will not. Right?
Then it has nothing to do with the beauty standard, does it? So your argument that it's
guess-
because
I guess
men are
it's a
ugly
mixture
was a
of
stupid
both.
fucking argument, wasn't it?
Well, it's that if the beauty standard is relative, right? And a woman has options back 5 million years ago when cavemans were still around or whatever the hell, and she's gonna choose the best option for her, the man that's most attractive to her. If you want to compare that man to today, sure, I bet he's ugly, but back in the time he wasn't.
I got a question.
Are you saying that back in the time that these women with, armpit hair, body hair all over the place smelled just as bad as the fucking men, had no beauty standards whatsoever, they didn't have the fake titties, they didn't have any of that, the rigors of the day also affected them as much as the men? I would say, if you look at the archaeological record, these women were not better looking than the men of the time. They were just as hairy and gross as they are. So
But
the
they were
question
still
is,
able to
why
be
would you,
hypergamous.
if they're still going for this top percentile of the alpha, who's this big ugly ape fuck, why is it that you then think, if that's part of the nature, that now in modernity, what's happened is men just won't upkeep the beauty standards,
back then
even
they
though
had-
the historic record is against you on
Well,
that.
the historic record is because women had to get married to men, right? We needed
No,
to
they didn't
participate
have
in
to get
society.
married to men.
They were
weren't
always
in
historically.
pre-civilization. Were they even really getting married? Or was it just
Pre-civilization.
unga boonga, come over here to my cave?
I mean, if you're talking that far back, it's like we could even argue whether, like, what their language was because they're ooga booga. Like, I don't know how much they were able to understand. So, like, I don't even know. Like,
I
this,
thought
Well,
it was
okay,
kind of
recorded
arbitrary to talk
civilization is about
it.
10,000 years old, roughly. Okay, Homo sapiens have not changed in 10,000 years at all. I mean, at all. Evolution is such a long, elongated period of time that 10,000 years is a blink. So we were basically in the exact same form we're in right now.
women have always-
Hang on, stop. Let me finish. Pre-civilization. we were still in the same form we're in right now, except that women couldn't pluck their fucking eyebrows and shave their armpits and get fake boobs and all this bullshit. They were pretty hideous. They were as hideous as the men were, and yet they were still going for that top percentage.
Historically, women were always trying to be attractive. Maybe they didn't get fake tits and put on makeup because it didn't exist, but they would do it in other ways.
Like?
Like their outfits. Yes, there is. They had
Their
other
outfits?
forms of makeup. Yes, they had other forms of
They
makeup.
wore whatever the fuck was around,
Nicole
lady.
and stuff. Okay.
But that's how it developed.
Now you're
though.
talking more like
Wait, speaking of which, you said you take an issue with men's problems with makeup is really just rooted in insecurity most of the time. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think they have a fair complaint when like a woman cakes it on way too much and like looks completely different. But for the most part, like if she's just putting on foundation and like just enhancing her features, and not,
Natural
like-
makeup.
Yeah.
So you think it's insecure for a man to prefer a woman
Well,
who
I
wears
think the reason,
minimal or no makeup?
No, I think a lot of the reason why men say, "Oh, I prefer a woman with no makeup," is because they know when a girl puts on makeup, she looks prettier, and then like
Yeah.
they
not
feel like
true.
she's more out of their
that
league.
makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that don't make no damn sense.
Everybody
Yeah,
got
because
their own
I don't
theory.
even
disagree.
I don't even wear because I look the same without makeup. Period. So it don't really make me look
Then
10
why do
times
you
better.
put
but
makeup
like,
on?
because I want to feel myself. That's why.
What?
Because
So-
it enhances your beauty.
Yeah, it enhances my beauty, but I look the
Exactly.
same without makeup. Like my skincare,
That
like
doesn't make
like
any
my
sense.
Can
I-
I?
Oh, no, she looks good. It's a hobby. At the same time, if you like to do makeup, you just do your
It
makeup.
shouldn't be
Can I
an
say
issue.
it though?
Yeah.
Can I?
What
I don't
Women
think that got
don't-
nothing to do with men though. Some men just prefer women that don't wear
ahead.
makeup.
No, women don't put makeup on for men. They do it for themselves. Like I don't wear foundation.
Women used to 12,000 years ago, they would wear the right type of bear skin in order to bring in their mate.
You can't even wear
Rub
makeup
dirt
for
on their
if your
face.
skin
Lol
not
Paladins
your-
donated $69. There is evidence of makeup being in use greater than 10,000 years ago. Women have always wanted the top men and have competed for it.
That's
Who
true
cares?
because
this is still not a widespread phenomenon. One, and the archaeological records show that women were heinous over 10,000 years ago.
So-
For
But
instance,
it's
they
relative.
didn't have
Can I
tampons and Tampax, and they didn't have feminine hygiene products, and they would walk around free bleeding
they
with
have
bare
their own
skin,
version
and
of
they
makeup.
stunk. They smelled awful.
They did.
and they
Can
were
I-
still going for that top tier.
Can I
weren't
give
they?
you a true fact? I've been a cosmetologist for almost 19 years now. Okay, I've been doing hair. Now, back then,
Say so NZ donated $69. Ugly men is a bad way to phrase it.
I'll agree.
Men are statistically attracted to a far higher percent of women than women to men. This lets women have more options.
Yeah, I agree.
so
Well put.
women.
Well put.
Back then, when he's saying women and men were equally ugly, he's not lying because women didn't even wash their hair for weeks and months at a time. They would keep it up in a bun because they couldn't just wash it like we wash our hair here. Like now we have more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Opportunities to stay clean and stay hygienic. And like in Egyptian era of Cleopatra, they broke up, like it was women that wore makeup and that made makeup was actually the queens. It was the rich ones. It was a staple of how much money you had. It wasn't, oh, we're going to go out and do our makeup because we're the poor class. No, the poor class didn't do anything. They stunk. They didn't brush their teeth. They didn't do their makeup or hair. They looked ugly and still got banged by random men.
Hypergamy wasn't about looks. That's why.
Exactly.
Hypergamy wasn't about looks.
but
Hypergamy
women care
hypergamy was
about it
about
now.
resources and status.
Back then.
So
That's
so
what I was gonna ask.
yeah, hypergamy was about resources and status. It didn't have much
Well,
to
if
do
that's
with
the
looks.
case, and I could agree with you that it is, then it really doesn't have anything to do
With
in
looks.
modernity either with looks. That's my point.
Yeah,
I was gonna say back in the day-
I'm refuting her saying it's about looks.
I
It
think
wasn't about
it
looks.
was about
I
status.
think if
It's
a
about
really,
status.
really hot guy that was like made $30K a year, but he like was super attractive in every other facet, then like most women would break their rules for him. That's just the reality.
Yeah, and he talking about like modern day, but if you talking about what he's saying, like archaeology, anthropology, in
Yeah,
those
but
records.
we're in the modern day today.
Yeah, but the
hypergamy
further
is
back you
not.
go, we didn't have like money wasn't a thing, and we didn't look clean shaven. We didn't have all
But
of
it was
those tools.
relative. Women were always trying.
Yes, I understand that, but I'm telling you that hypergamy was about status and resources.
I'm not saying that doesn't factor into it. I absolutely do think it does. But I think today most women would break their rules for a hot guy with nothing else.
I wouldn't.
You say that.
I mean, there's also
No,
evolutionary
I've
basis
lived it.
too.
Yeah,
I've
but, I mean,
turned down.
point
I
is,
have
there's
turned
a
down
point
so
that
many
hypergamy
hot
only
guys.
exists because men have become uglier than
Agree to
women.
disagree.
As we can point to a time where women were just as fucking ugly, heinous, and smelled just as bad, and they were still very
It is
hypergamous.
relative.
The argument just doesn't
Beauty
hold
is
any weight.
relative.
I'm sorry.
You cannot compare people to today's standards and be like, look, they were ugly, so hypergamy doesn't exist. In their standards,
That's not
they
what I
had
said.
different
That's not
standards
my
of using.
argument.
That is basically.
What's my argument? What's my argument? Steel man, my argument like I did yours.
Okay, well, at least we're even now.
Steel man, my argument like I steel manned your argument.
I mean, I did. I don't know what else you want from me, to be honest. Like, I gave you an
Steel
answer.
man, my argument, which if you don't know what that means, it just means tell me what my argument is to you.
Your argument is that back then, women didn't have, like, there was no beauty standard or anything like that. Everybody was fucking ugly. And so the only difference between men and women was the status that men could provide.
Right.
And that means
So
that
if
women are
if this is the case, then in modernity, if you're just saying that men are worse looking than women, if we can point to a time when they were basically equally bad looking.
I disagree with you.
Well then, so you just think that women are naturally better looking than men?
No, but I think women
Now, are
do
you
naturally
sure? Because
have a
that would be the
tendency-
inference, wouldn't it? The inference would be that women are just naturally better looking than men.
No,
that would be the inference.
Comparison.
No, it wouldn't. I'm just saying that back then, if you're comparing their beauty standards, women were still trying, even if it was minimal, even if it was not like they couldn't take their hair down or have deodorant and they still stunk like shit. It doesn't matter. They were still trying in the facets that they had available.
Yeah,
to
they were
them.
trying to survive.
Only
They were trying to
women of
survive by
status
eating whatever they could
is
get,
surviving
rubs
about
and
how they
whatever the
look.
fuck they could find. So if that's the case, I don't think they were spending very much time on beauty standards at all.
Minus
And
underscore
they-
didn't have
69
time to.
donated $69. This conversation includes numerous unsubstantiated claims about anthropology and archaeology, all presented without the necessary citations or shola.
Nobody was there.
Oh
No,
yeah, let me
that's
go.
not-
Let me
that's
here.
not true.
Let's do this.
That's not true. It's
I'll go
definitely
grab a bunch of archaeological sources, though we can agree logically this is true, so that you feel.
Lol Paladins donated $69. Alpha ducks / beta bucks doesn't mean that women only F alphas, it means that women F for one of two reasons. So if she doesn't need your bucks, be alpha.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you,
Fair
Wall
enough.
Paladins.